You got to love it when a fight makes the Bible. There's a few epic ones. You can think of David and Goliath. That was a big battle. There were some big time fights between armies in the Bible. The two sisters get into it in the New Testament. Mary and Martha have a little spat there. We get to Galatians 2. We got the two heavyweights of the New Testament in Peter and Paul, and they're going to get into it. And I love it because there's been a lot of good fights in history. Tyson and Holyfield, Ali and Frazier, the Thrilla and Manila. This one is bigger than all of them. It is the guy who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament versus the man that walked on water 5 seconds longer than you ever did in your whole life. So these are the two heavyweights, and they're fighting based on legalism, or are we going to live by grace? And this is what it says. We're going to start in verse 11. When Cephas, talking about Peter, came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face. I love this. Because he stood condemned. I like how he says, the reason I opposed him to his face is because he was wrong and I was right. For before certain men came from James, he used to eat with the Gentiles. But when they arrived, he began to draw back and separate himself from the Gentiles because he was afraid of those. You see how legalism always breeds fear. He was afraid of those who belonged to the circumcision group. The other Jews joined him in his hypocrisy so that by their hypocrisy, even Barnabas was led astray. That's Paul's sidekick. So this, like legalism, the Bible says it's like a little yeast leavens the whole loaf. Well, this legalism just started spreading. So Paul goes into some heavy correction. He says, when I saw that they were not acting in line with the truth of the gospel, I said to Peter in front of them all, you are a Jew, yet you live like a Gentile, not like a Jew. How is it then that you force Gentiles to follow Jewish customs? We who are Jews by birth and not sinful Gentiles know that a person is not justified, listen to me, by the works of the law. They are justified by faith in Jesus Christ. I'm going to give you a few things. This fight leads us to one of the landmark verses of the Bible I'm going to read to you. It's Galatians 2:20. A few things about the story that I like. Number one, Jesus said that the only way, this is what this text is saying, the only way that we really grow is to live in an environment of grace. Everything that God has created in this world, He also created the environment that it thrives in. So when God created fish, He also created water that it could swim in. I know it's going to get elementary. All right, when He created birds and He said you're going to fly, He created a sky for them, an environment for them to thrive in. When a Christian gets saved, a believer does not grow in an environment of legalism. A Christian grows in an environment of grace. And what was happening is they had this environment of grace, but out of fear, Peter started leaning back into legalism. He's like, well, I don't want to eat with them, and I want to go back to some of these customs. I want to live with grace and a little bit of law, because if I live by the law, then maybe that would satisfy you. And the Apostle Paul corrects this, because he says, when we go down this road, people are going to spiritually dry up. Our faith is not in ourselves. Our faith is in Jesus. That's where the power is at. That's where the freedom is at. It comes through Jesus Christ, Him and Him alone. So that's the first thing, that we have to live in an environment of grace, a culture of grace. The second thing that I just love is that there's no perfect Christians in this world. And you see this, that we get 14, 15 years down the road and Peter's still making mistakes. Paul's making mistakes. Like, you can let yourself off the hook a little bit. You're going to trip. You're going to make bad decisions. You're going to make sinful decisions. You're not going to be perfect the rest of your life. And this kind of sets me free. Is like Peter was still making mistakes and still repenting. You listen to me. You're always going to course correct in your life. Like you're always going to be coming back to the grace of God and yielding to the conviction of the Spirit of God in your life. So this little fight brings us to Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. And this is how you live your life to the glory of God, in the grace of God. It says this, I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live. Yet not I, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Few words to circle there. First, for you. God's done some things for you. It's a great way to end this Devo today, is to say, God, you've done some things for me. You gave yourself for me. If God is for you, who cares who's against you? Second thing, he's doing some things in you. Christ liveth in me. God's done some things for me, paved some ways for me, but he is continuing to work inside of me. So when you write down things God's done for you, also acknowledge, God, what are you trying to do in me, and then also through me? Like, what you're doing in me, I want this to go through me. So as you're listening to these devos on the book of Galatians, I hope you're learning how to live in the grace of God, through the grace of God, and let it just be released in your life. Go have a great day.